In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint was humming at full capacity, producing millions of Roosevelt dimes to meet national demand. The coin bore the now familiar profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, a tribute to his legacy since 1946. These dimes, composed primarily of copper and nickel, flowed from the presses with precision. Yet amid that precision, one batch held a mystery, unnoticed in the rush of production. That year, for the first time since 1967, the Philadelphia Mint began using a mint mark again, the tiny P reintroduced below the date. But something peculiar happened deep within the coils of the minting machinery. The error was subtle, so subtle that it slipped through unnoticed at first, caught only in the quiet hours of a weekend flea market where a collector named Edwin rummaged through a coffee can full of loose change. He wasn't hunting treasure, just enjoying the rhythm of metal on metal as he sorted. The 1980 P Roosevelt dime he fished out didn't shine with obvious rarity, but something about the way the lettering bled into the rim on closer inspection made him pause. Under magnification, the coin revealed its secret, a dramatic misalignment, where the outer rim swallowed portions of the inscriptions, gave away what was known in numismatic circles as an off-center strike. But it wasn't just slightly off, it had a dual personality. That coin bore a ghostly doubling along the legend Liberty and In God We Trust, a doubling that wasn't normal, not from die deterioration or strike slippage, but something more deliberate, like a phantom echo of the first imprint, just barely displaced. Edwin's fingers trembled slightly. He'd seen machine doubling before, but this was crisp, clean, and consistent. The hallmark of a double die. The year 1980 wasn't supposed to be significant for Roosevelt dimes. No commemorative design, no major shortage. Yet here it was, a dime from Philadelphia harboring one of the most elusive and least publicized errors of the series. Edwin wasn't the first to discover such anomalies, but his was different. As he compared it to other listings in his error catalog, he realized the coin also lacked a sharply defined rim on the reverse. The torch, oak, and olive branches, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength, looked softly melted at the edges, as if the reverse die had been misaligned or improperly seated. This wasn't just one error. It was stacking. Over the following weeks, Edwin reached out to other collectors. A few had similar examples. 1980, P Roosevelt dimes with various anomalies, from off-center strikes to partial collars, and in rare cases, reverse misalignments causing the coin to be slightly thicker on one edge. Most had dismissed them as minor flaws, but Edwin held firm. There was more to it. A pattern, perhaps, linked to a specific die pairing that had gone rogue on the production line. A S-word spread within online forums and coin conventions. Interest grew. A handful of examples surfaced, most of them in circulated condition, worn but still whispering of something strange. A collector in Ohio posted photos of his coin, showing even more dramatic doubling, this time affecting the date and the mint mark. Others chimed in, some skeptical, others intrigued. Auction sites began to list the coin, albeit cautiously, testing the waters. An XF example sold quietly for $85. Another, slightly better preserved, fetched $120. Then a near-mint specimen shocked bidders, reaching just under $400. The market had spoken, but still questions loomed. What exactly caused the doubling? Some argued for hub doubling, a result of a misalignment during the die creation process, meaning every coin struck from that die would carry the same flaw. If that were true, and if the number of coins struck was low, then Edwin's find might be part of an exceptionally limited group. The implications were enormous. A common dime, suddenly elevated by a mechanical misstep into a semi-mythical treasure. Yet there was one more layer. At the ANA convention that year, a retired Mint employee stopped by a booth displaying one of these error dimes. His eyes lingered on the reverse. Then, quietly, he admitted something. During the early months of 1980, a batch of reverse dies had been delivered late to Philadelphia, forcing a temporary reliance on backup dies meant for internal testing. These dies were never intended for full circulation use. One of them, he claimed, had been used for only a few days before it cracked under pressure and was discarded. It had been paired with a standard obverse die, possibly the same one causing the doubling. That meant the coins struck during that narrow window were technically mint anomalies, born of necessity and never meant to persist. The revelation cast the entire issue in a new light. These weren't just flawed coins. They were the result of an emergency compromise in production. And very few people outside the mint ever knew. Edwin, now joined by a few like-minded collectors, began to catalog every known specimen. They noticed other micro-errors, inconsistent reading on the edge, faint die polish lines, slight die rotation. Each new detail added to the mystique. They weren't dealing with a single error, but a suite of them, all radiating from that brief mechanical disruption in 1980. Why now? Demand surged. Collectors who had once dismissed Roosevelt dimes as too modern to matter were now paying attention. Even seasoned numismatists were revisiting their holdings. In one stunning auction, a coin graded MS-66 with full bands, despite the error, commanded over $950, purely on the strength of its provenance and error clarity. It wasn't just a coin anymore. It was a story, and the story had one final twist. A collector, scanning rolls from a bank purchase, found something that changed the narrative again. His 1980 P dime had all the known hallmarks: off-center strike, reverse die softness, doubling, but also bore an unintentional partial brockage. A faint mirror image of the obverse struck into the reverse field. How this had happened was anyone's guess, but its presence confirmed one thing. The minting environment for that die pairing had been chaotic enough to produce multiple error types simultaneously. That coin now sits in a private collection, insured for over $5,000. It remains the centerpiece of one of the most peculiar tales in Roosevelt dime history. A coin that began in anonymity, born of haste and substitution, overlooked for decades, until sharp eyes and sharper instincts pulled it from obscurity. Its journey is still unfolding, and as more examples surface, the 1980 P Roosevelt dime continues to defy expectations. Not with flashy design, but with a quiet, stubborn whisper of mechanical defiance, forever etched in copper and nickel. In 1967, America was caught in the storm of social upheaval, civil rights marches, and a war growing distant but louder. While television screens flashed images of protests and soldiers, something quieter, almost invisible, took place deep within the U.S. Mint's facilities, something seemingly insignificant, yet destined to raise eyebrows decades later. That year, in an effort to combat nationwide coin hoarding caused by silver content, the U.S. Mint suspended the use of mint marks. For the Roosevelt dime, that meant one peculiar outcome. Every dime minted in 1967, regardless of location, be it Denver, Philadelphia, or San Francisco, looked the same on the surface. No mint mark, no visual clue of origin, just a standard composition of copper and nickel, forged under federal urgency. The mint produced over 2.2 billion dimes that year. It was supposed to be a year of simplicity and standardization. No proof sets, no special issues, no room for anomalies. And yet, anomalies did creep in. Somewhere in the flood of those 2 billion coins, a mistake took root. Quiet, overlooked, and utterly fascinating, but it wasn't until much later, in the dusty confines of a retired postal worker's attic in New Jersey, that the dime reemerged. Robert had been collecting coins since childhood, his fascination passed down from a grandfather who traded silver dollars like baseball cards. The hobby had faded behind marriage, kids, and mortgage payments. But one winter afternoon, sifting through a forgotten shoebox of change rolls from the late 60s, Robert stumbled on a coin he couldn't place. It was a 1967 Roosevelt dime, dull with age but oddly off-kilter. The letters hugged the rim too tightly. The portrait of Roosevelt was pulled upward, crowding the date. Something about the spacing looked unnatural. Under a magnifying loupe, Robert spotted it, an off-center strike, slight but undeniable. The coin hadn't been seated properly during minting. What made it more intriguing was what lay just under Roosevelt's neck, something that should not have been there in 1967. A shadow, a soft curve, a possible ghost of a mint mark. But there shouldn't have been a mint mark at all. Not that year. Not on any coin. And yet, it looked like the faintest trace of a D. Not fully struck. Not intentional. A die transfer? A reused die? Robert's heart quickened. He began scouring his books, reaching out to online forums, and even mailing high-resolution scans to numismatic societies. One reply changed everything. A former grader turned private consultant confirmed that similar dimes had been spotted, just a handful, bearing what collectors believed to be die remnants from earlier mint mark engravings. In a rush to keep up with demand, it seemed that the mint may have repolished and reused a die previously marked with a D for Denver. In theory, that D should have been removed, erased completely. But metal remembers, the implications were massive. Not only was the coin struck off-center, which already gave it modest collectible appeal, but it also bore a faint relic of a mint mark from a year when such marks were banned. A coin that shouldn't exist. As more attention turned toward the 1967 dimes, small discoveries multiplied. One collector in Ohio found a coin with doubling in Liberty, not typical mechanical doubling, but something deeper, truer, a double die. Another collector in Arizona uncovered a dime with a partial collar strike, where the reeded edge abruptly flattened at one section, suggesting a misalignment during pressing. And then came the coin from San Diego, missing most of its reverse detail entirely, as if the die had failed mid-strike. What started as curiosity became obsession. Robert's coin, now verified and certified, began attracting offers. First small, $50, $100. Then larger, $300, $450. But Robert hesitated. The coin had become more than currency or rarity. It was a mystery unfolding piece by piece. The market responded. Articles popped up in coin magazines. YouTubers and podcasters debated the cause. Was it poor quality control, a rushed production cycle, or something stranger, a rogue die that made it through unnoticed? Theories abounded. Some speculated that one of the mint's backup dies, originally prepared before the mint mark moratorium, had accidentally been inserted. Others suggested the image was a phantom, a psychological trick of coin, wear, and light angles. Then came the twist. At a coin show in Missouri, a dealer unveiled a second 1967 Roosevelt dime with a faint D, clearer than Robert's, perfectly struck, unmistakable. But the coin was encased in a sealed plastic card labeled mint set. That was impossible. Number 1967 mint sets were officially released to the public that year. The government offered only special mint sets from San Francisco, and none were to contain mint marks. And yet, this coin was in a government-sealed package dated 1967. The room hushed. Collectors surrounded the booth. An examiner with decades of grading experience confirmed it wasn't a counterfeit. The packaging looked legitimate. The dime wasn't just an error. It was a contradiction of mint policy. The existence of two such coins, both with phantom mint marks, led to a re-evaluation of 1967 production practices. Could a small number of mint sets have been assembled with coins struck using obsolete dies? Could mint employees have experimented off-record, assuming no one would notice? The answers remained elusive, buried with records long shredded. Still, the value soared. Robert's coin, once ignored in a shoebox, was now appraised at over $1,200. The San Diego missing reverse coin crossed $2,000 in private sale. The mint set specimen? Rumor placed it near $5,000, though its owner refused to sell. All from a year that was never supposed to matter. Even today, collectors comb through 1967 dimes, weighing, tilting, and studying. They check for doubling, for off-center presses, for ghostly D.S. hiding just beneath the surface. Some find them, some don't. But the hunt continues, driven by the thrill that one might hold something the mint never meant to release. An error born not just of mechanics, but of circumstance. A whisper from the past, pressed into copper and nickel, enduring long after the noise of its time has faded. In 1996, the U.S. Mint had a simple goal: to continue producing the Roosevelt dime with consistency and efficiency, upholding a coin design that had remained largely unchanged since 1946. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P beneath Roosevelt's neckline, struck tens of millions of dimes that year. These coins were meant to be ordinary, their purpose transactional, never meant to become anything more than loose change forgotten in coat pockets and vending machines. But among those millions, something unexpected happened. So subtle at first, so seemingly irrelevant, that even the Mint's own inspectors may have missed it. That year, a die shift occurred on one of the production presses. A minuscule misalignment, perhaps less than a fraction of a millimeter, sent ripples across the dime's otherwise standard design. And it wasn't immediately obvious. No dramatic off-center strike. No missing lettering. No visible cracks. The change lay within the smallest details, specifically in the torch's flame on the reverse side and in the subtle doubling of the motto on the obverse. What was once overlooked would later become a lightning rod for speculation and desire among collectors. Miles away in rural Ohio, an amateur numismatist named Gerald had been collecting coins for nearly 30 years. He wasn't famous in the community, nor did he own any coins worth tens of thousands of dollars. His collection was humble: rolls of pennies, jars of nickels, the occasional rare half-dollar. But his favorite pieces were dimes. Something about their size, the Roosevelt portrait, the balance in the design. He found elegance in the smallest denomination point one evening, as Gerald sorted through a roll of dimes he had picked up from a local bank branch. His trained eye paused on a 1996 P specimen. At first glance, it looked no different. But when he turned it under the fluorescent lamp, something caught the light in an unusual way. The word Liberty shimmered with an unexpected edge, almost as if it had been printed twice. He narrowed his eyes. The "In God We Trust" motto also looked heavier, with ghostly outlines barely echoing each letter. He took out his loupe. His breath hitched. This wasn't a trick of the light. The coin displayed clear signs of a double die. True doubling, not mechanical. His heart pounded. Could this be a known variety? He grabbed his guides, scanned online forums, and reviewed error coin databases. Nothing. No mention of a 1996 P Roosevelt dime with a double die on the obverse. The reverse, too, had inconsistencies. The flame on the torch appeared distorted, split in a way that seemed intentional, but misaligned. It didn't match any official descriptions. He sent photos to 2 professional graders. Both replies came back with careful enthusiasm. Further evaluation recommended. Gerald submitted the coin to a grading service. When it returned, the label read, 1996 P Roosevelt dime, obverse double die, unattributed variety, a one-of-a-kind, or at least one not yet categorized. It wasn't a dramatic error that leapt off the coin's surface, but the precision of its irregularity made it more intriguing. It suggested that a single die had escaped quality control, that a minor mistake had slid unnoticed into production. Word spread in the collector community. Photos of Gerald's coin surfaced in online discussions. Some dismissed it as common die fatigue. Others weren't so sure. Another collector in New Jersey came forward with a nearly identical dime. Same year, same mint, similar doubling pattern. Then another from Kansas. It became clear that the 1996 P Roosevelt dime error wasn't an isolated mistake. It was a small batch error, perhaps tied to a single die used during one shift at the Philadelphia Mint. Maybe only a few thousand were struck before the die was replaced. The scarcity, paired with the subtlety, created a sense of mystery. These weren't errors that screamed from the coin's surface. They whispered, and that made them more desirable. Error hunters now tore through rolls of dimes in search of the elusive 1996 P variation. At first, finds were sporadic, prices modest, $30 here, $50 there. But as verification of Gerald's coin spread and professional graders began recognizing the variety, demand increased. A certified MS-66 example crossed the $200 mark in an online auction. A higher grade piece, MS-67, nearly perfect, fetched nearly $450. The value wasn't just in the error. It was in the story. This wasn't a misprint visible from across the room. It was a ghost, a flaw hiding in plain sight, missed by machines, inspectors, and even collectors for years. Its subtlety made it more valuable. It separated the casual observer from the devoted numismatist. Only those who paid attention could find it. And then came the twist that a Florida coin dealer, having followed the chatter about the 1996 P error, submitted a coin for grading, another with visible doubling. But this one carried something more. On the reverse, around the olive branch and oak leaves, a set of raised dots ran in a semicircle. Too even to be post-mint damage. Too symmetrical to be random. Under magnification, they resembled braille-like impressions, possibly from a damaged feeder mechanism. What's more, under the mint mark, there was a second P, lightly struck, misaligned by half a millimeter. Not a repunching, not die deterioration. A second mint mark. This coin sent shockwaves through the community. A doubled mint mark wasn't just rare. It was unprecedented in modern Roosevelt dimes. The coin was authenticated and labeled 1996 P double mint mark, double die obverse, die, clash reverse. A trifecta of errors on a single specimen that IT sold within days for over $2,000. From there, the 1996 P Roosevelt dime crossed from curiosity into legend. It wasn't about one coin anymore. It was about what the coin represented. That even in an era of machine precision and tight quality control, mistakes still happened. That the smallest object, in the most ordinary of places, could hold a secret history. A dime, mass-produced, passed over by millions, could hide anomalies waiting to be uncovered by those patient enough to look closely. Gerald still has his original find. He's been offered 5 figures, even approached by a private collector looking to acquire and catalog all known varieties of the 1996 P error. But he holds on to it, not for the money, not for fame, but because he remembers that moment, that breathless pause when he saw something different. And in that pause, everything changed.